It is time now for our Sheriff Sit Down, presented by our great friends at our Community Credit Union, Casey Salisbury, Mason County Sheriff. It was good, one, to see you on Saturday night at the Shelton High School Coronation for Forest Festival. What a fun time that was.
Yes.
Exciting to have some great young folks representing our county across the whole state as they go to these parades. I know you're heavily involved in the local parades, at least, so it's a pretty cool thing.
I think any of those programs like that, when students are involved, to teach school, and you see the schools that have high participation in all kinds of different activities are your places that are being very successful, because those students are involved in something that's positive and moving forward, and that's a long running Coronation has been a long running thing for Mason County, and the people that are involved in that, you look at every one of those students that were there the other night, you could tell they're very successful young people. They're going to go places. And it was a lot more, it was almost like running for office up there. It was a difficult circumstance when you're throwing a question at them on a stage in front of a live audience. That's a whole different thing, and being in a hot studio and you can take a break. And so what wonderful answers they gave about our community and how they were involvement and some of the things that make our community around here great.
I mean, you've been involved, and you went to the high school, and you've taught and coached and played, and so you've been around for a long time, and so you've seen how Forest Festival impacts the community and how much people come from all over the place. They hear about it or whatever at the different parades, and they make time to come down. And were you ever on court or anything like that? Were you ever big wig on campus?
I remember as a kid, though, really young, when we came to Shelton, the old logging shows at Loop Field.
Yeah.
And those are quite a spectacle in day, because they used to actually go out there and take logging trucks and race through a course, and the clown would many people don't even know what a skidder is, but a logging skidder, get behind there and hang on the old cable behind there and drag themselves across the logs. And it was really something in the old stadium down there. And over the years, it's evolved and changed a little bit, but I just think it's great to see the involvement of the students on that, because I tell you, whenever you see schools that have high involvement student activities, whatever that activity is, you're going to see successful schools.
Before that, in the evening, it was the inaugural class for the Shelton Sports Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And the Hall of Fame will now be opened up to a whole host of different categories moving forward, but it was a lot of past accolades and athletes that made some real serious impact in the community. Of course, we always talk about the state champ football team with Coach Stark and things like that, but there was a lot of other folks that have made major impacts, and I know you're close with a lot of those people too.
I had a chance. I'll tell you, it was really neat coming into high school when Raul Allegra went on a kick for the New York Giants and for the Colts, won 2 Super Bowl rings and received 2 Super Bowl rings. He did I don't know what you call it. He was out of the area and did a deal for Coach Stark's program and held up both of his Super Bowl rings and talked about coming here as a foreign exchange student, going from a foreign exchange student in a little town like Shelton, kicking a football to 2 Super Bowls, and it was pretty neat to know Raul, to see somebody that's gone that far, but very humble guy and very kind guy.
What's going on with the sheriff's office?
Well, I'll tell you, Jeff, one of the things that comes up, that we've worked on every year that we really love to be involved with is the law enforcement torch run. And so in May, the 28th of May is our law enforcement torch run. It is the day of the run. We carry the torch across the county on May 28th. And then on Friday, the 29th, is our law enforcement breakfast that recognizes our Special Olympics athletes. We swapped them around this year. We're going to follow the run this year. And so our athletes will be eating breakfast with us that morning for the law enforcement torch run. The one thing that's going to be different this year, and I'm hoping it works out well. For years I've gone around and sold T-shirts to raise money for that. This year, Special Olympics Washington advised us that the way they're going to do the T-shirts is an online purchasing deal, and that's going to make it harder for me, because I usually carry a big box of those things around, and everywhere I go I'm selling Special Olympics T-shirts. So we're going to really encourage people, when I get the site for you, to go online, order T-shirts, and you can do it directly and see how we do there. It's just sometimes you get a whole bunch of boxes of T-shirts, and if they're not selling, they get stuck with them. So now they're...
I see what you're saying.
I don't know. It'll be harder for me. I'm not an online ordering person, but I think there are people that sit down and order things off their phone all the
Sure.
time. So maybe it will be better. We want to get those sold because the money from that goes for our local athletes, and we have a great time on that run, and a great time supporting Special Olympics.
Well, maybe what you can do is you'll have your own shirt that you can show off what it is in person. People can look at it
Right.
and have some special code or QR code, whatever. Somebody take a picture on their phone and it opens up the link and they
That
can
would
go
be
right
neat.
to it. Maybe that's an
Yeah,
opportunity for
it's
you.
really important for our athletes, and getting ready for that run. Our course will be fairly the same run as it has in the past, and we coordinated last year. It was great to have the United States Marine Corps sent 20-some Marines down and sailors, and we had some folks from the U.S. Army Special Forces ran with us, and to help augment that, and it was really a great run, and so we're looking forward to that this
Tell
year.
me about how those partnerships help Mason County. You have a big Rolodex doing what you have done over the years, and when you call JBLM or the Kitsap base up in Bremerton or something like that, and, oftentimes people will say, "Oh yes, of course, Sheriff, whatever you need." Is that common throughout the state, or is that something that you've worked on?
Yeah, I kind of stole some of those ideas from other agencies that were doing a little bit of that, but I can tell you as recently as when I was diving on the dive team for Thurston County, training for that's expensive. And we got some of the best training in the world because we would team up with the military dive teams. And those guys are specialists, underwater demolition experts and things. Those guys are fantastic in the water. We go up and train with them there. And when we first got helicopters, we'd go up and train with the military teams on how to evacuate a helicopter or rappel out of helicopters. So you're getting some of the best training in the world with some of the best people in the world. And then when we came down here, another thing that has worked out great for us is participating. They like to participate. And one of the things that's worked out great for us is having them come down, and we're always telling people, hey, listen, when you decide to get out of the military, we're always looking for great candidates. And we had brought that up to this group that ran with us when you're talking Special Olympics. When they came down, Chief Sperling and I went up and talked to the Sergeant Major, and one of their young people was getting ready to get out. And he said, hey, go to Mason County. They really support the military. And one of the guys came down and he's working for us now.
Oh, wow.
So we picked up a few people by doing that. And so they know that we're interested in people from the different branches.
If you get somebody with the military experience or fresh out of military, is it an easier process to get them behind the badge, or is it still the same process as
It's the
someone
same
who
process.
has any sort of experience?
It's the same process, but I'll tell you, very fortunate over the years. When you have people coming out of the military, they've gone through basic training and they recognize a chain of command and they know all these things ahead of time, they have a tremendous advantage when they go into the testing process and they come to work for you. They've gone through so many different types of training in the military, no matter what they've been trained on. Just going through basic training and working your way through any of the military services, I think, is a tremendous benefit. It's a benefit for us out here because people come in with all kinds of specialized training. Like we have some people that have been specialized intelligence officers in the military. I'm not sure what that's what they were doing, but they know how to research things and do cases and things like that. And they're very valuable to have that level of training and experience come into your agency. So they're a fantastic group to get from.
You mentioned too, Chief Hansen, and you guys had some updates from a medical professional on the coronavirus, and I know that there was some cases again up in Kirkland. Another person passed away over the weekend. Those reports came out last night. Is the Sheriff's Department doing anything to remind folks about things, or are they changing their ways in the jail on how inmates are handled or anything like that?
Well, I know that you met Chief Hansen, and he's just done a super job in the jail with making sure things are kept clean and those kind of things anyway, because you're in a tight environment in there, and we're all in there working with in the jail population too. So keeping that clean has always been, a real priority. Dr. Stern was out on Friday. He was addressing jail medical standards. He's kind of a consultant across the state of Washington, has set jail medical standards for all the jails and prisons in the state of Washington. And he talked a little bit. He said, I can't help but bring this up because it's a concern talking about the coronavirus.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting about that is Dr. Stern was talking about, it's just those basic things that we all know. when I used to teach elementary school, I used to talk to kids all the time about not touching their face, washing their hands constantly, when you pick something up, how disease transmission works. And just remembering to wash hands, those basic things, and not to panic over it, really make a big difference. And that's a point that he brought about, is taking care of those basic hygiene things and keeping the surfaces clean around you.
One thing I read or saw in a news report yesterday was one of the fire departments up in, I think, Kirkland or in that general area had some of the folks who now are under quarantine, and the mayor was interviewed, and they mentioned mutual aid and how that works. And you've got all those agreements in place, not only between us, between the county, but also the city, the tribes, and the outlying counties, or?
Yeah, we have... Actually, there's mutual aid across the state of Washington for law enforcement in agreement with each other on mutual aid responses. But we also, when something happens, generally if you're a traffic accident, you've got fire and medics there as well as law enforcement. And generally, depending on where it's at, you're going to get different agencies, the closest agencies responding to those things too. And it's just those, the precautions I think that we use normally when we're on a scene. I mean, we glove up a lot. We go through a lot of rubber gloves in our business. And Doc was talking about some of the masks that people are wearing, some of these things that they're really not effective. Yeah. They might help you when you're coughing out, but they're not really avoiding things that you can breathe in. He talked about the different types of masks and what actually will work. But the washing the hands, not coughing in somebody's face, those kind of things are the main things for this to be concerned about. And I think now calling ahead to your physician or whatever, if you're not feeling well with cold symptoms, please let them know coming in what you so they can protect themselves as well.
That makes sense. Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, it's always good talking with you, and we'll continue to update folks on the torch run, which will be coming up the end of May, Thursday the 28th.
Yes.
Very good. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.